Welcome to another insightful episode on the King Obed Podcast, where bold ideas meets real conversation. In today's episode, it's a special one, and with me is a special guest. I'm sitting with a man who has walked this life and has a lot to offer. He's given a lot to his country, a lot to the world. This is the man I'm seated with. From a humble beginning and from the dust streets of Keta to boardrooms in Africa and Europe, this man has done tremendously well. From humble beginnings to his shocking presidential bid, 20, now he's done a lot. He's a chartered accountant, he's a reformist, a public intellectual, a published author, and a family man. This is the man we are seated with. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Marek Kofi Gane on the King Obed Podcast. This episode is a special one, and we are going to talk about his life journey, and then what made him get into politics to the extent of going into the presidential position or vying for an independent president in Ghana. We get to hear from the man who has done all this. Welcome to the King Obed Podcast, Mr. Kofi.
Obed, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate being here. Well, hopefully, I get to enjoy myself as much as you and your listeners do.
Definitely.
So thanks for having me.
Definitely. You're welcome. We love to see you. And on behalf of my audience or listeners, I say thank you for giving us your special time to be with us, to tell us your story and the journey so far. Yes, so I want us to start this way. I want us to go into your personal journey, your personal life, how you started as a young Kofi way back in Keta, and then you've traveled through to London, back to Ghana, where you've established yourself and all. I want you to tell us your life as a person, where you came from. You started from Keta and then through all. How was the journey like? Can you share a bit about it and your early upbringing, your early life? Maybe what are some of the key experiences or values that have shaped you to become the person you are today?
Thank you, Obed. So you're right. I grew up in Keta. I was born in Keta.
Okay.
Spent the most part of my childhood in Keta until I left to join my father in Nigeria and then came back again to Keta. But basically, I grew up with my mother for the most part and my grandparents, my father, my grandfather, my mother's father, and my mother's mother. Amazing people, by the way. But I had a very enjoyable childhood. I mean, not your kind of city kind of childhood. Growing up in Keta, we lived on a land that was right between the sea on one hand and the lagoon on the other hand. So we would go fishing in the morning on the days I wasn't going to school. And if we didn't get any catch in the sea, of course, we would hang our nets and head into the lagoon, catch crabs and little tiny tilapia and all sorts of things. So I did pretty much everything young kids at my age did. Help my grandmother sell foods in the Keta market, chase cars and hang on the back of cars. Everything you would imagine a young boy would do. I'm glad to say I still know how to make the hook that, the hook that you use in the lagoon. I still know how to make traps for crabs. I still know a lot of things that most people would have forgotten. So I grew up, in the normal way everybody grew up. I went to a Saito school, Zion Primary School, and went to church like every kid, spent Christmas eating rice like everybody else. I would say some of the best values I have learned as a child growing up in Keta have been first and foremost, community. Back in the day, we grew up in community. And so I remember very well, the true saying that it takes an entire community to raise a child.
Yeah.
My fondest memories are if you went to town and behaved naughtily, whoever knew your family would beat you in town before you get home. In fact, some of them would hold my hands and bring me home. And then my grandmother would deal with me with her version. And then when my mother came back, she would also have her version with me. So it was an entire community that raised kids. And one of the biggest things we learned was responsibility as well, that you owe a responsibility to yourself to grow up as a responsible adult. But you also owed responsibility to your elders and also those coming after you. And those were things we learned from early childhood. I think those two things have really shaped me, responsibility and community, as well as duty. If you grow up in a local area, you would know that if you wake up as a child, everybody has been given a duty to perform in the morning.
Yeah.
When you come back from school, you also have a duty. You have special duties to your grandfather. You have special duties to your mother. So from very early, you knew the essence of duty and doing those duties responsibly and living as a community. Everybody's welfare was your responsibility as well as yours was theirs. So yeah, pretty interesting times I grew up in. But my childhood was as normal as any child growing up in Keta.
Wow, interesting. Do you see that missing in our current dispensation or our current society, as you rightly put it, that it was a community-based thing, and then you're having a sense of responsibility, a sense of duty and all. Are those things missing in our society now?
I think to a large extent they're missing. I think we have mistakenly replaced those things with the sense of independence, even though we also grew up quite independent.
Yeah.
But I think we've literally shadowed all of that with independence. And as a result, we have a society now that to a very large extent lacks discipline, because being a part of community and having responsibility and duty towards that community ensure that at all times you were disciplined, because you didn't just owe discipline to yourself, you owed it to everybody else, your elders, the younger ones after you, even to the community. I remember growing up, as an example of discipline, I remember growing up on Saturday mornings, the tankers people were going to come, which I grew up before I understood tankers as we call them, actually was the short term for town council. And you had those in the morning coming on Saturday to go around. They wouldn't take bribe. It was either the house front was clean or it wasn't. In fact, they went as far as coming into the houses and inspecting. Back in the village, we had all these big pots that we had water in it being cooled.
Yeah.
And they would inspect all of that to see if they had, worms in them or larvae in them. So there was some real discipline then at state level, at community level, and at family level. And I think we've lost that. We've lost a big part of that, even though I think it can still be brought. I mean, these things start from the top, isn't it? So, yeah.
Okay. So from that point, now you transitioned into an adult and you traveled abroad and all. How was the abroad experience, and then why did you return back to Ghana?
Like everyone else, I left Ghana to go pursue a master's.
Okay.
Ended up staying beyond just that. I got a good job and decided to stay. But the one thing I would say is this, that if anybody has the chance to travel, do it. Do it because traveling, the other 50% of education nobody teaches in the classroom.
Yes.
There's so much. I was explaining to a young person recently that just the mere fact of having to, maneuver your way in an airport that is unknown to you just by yourself teaches you a lot. It really teaches you a lot to be aware of your environment, to be confident in yourself. So traveling does a number of things that the normal classroom education doesn't do. And if there's anything I learned in my travels around, and I have moved around quite a bit, is that meritocracy always wins. In the countries I have visited that work, if there's one thing that grounds those environments, it's meritocracy. I have also learned that when you travel, you get to understand different perspectives to similar issues you may have at home. And so you see the world, or you even see your own country from a 360-degree mindset, because you are not only seeing it from where you are in the country, you are seeing it as others would also see it because of your traveling around. So it gives you a way of having perspective that is not overly too localized. And that's a big advantage if you want to make impact in the world. So I have learned, that traveling shapes the part of education that you don't get to learn in the classroom. I know it shapes or helps with your perception and mindset. I think it also helps with understanding what true meritocracy looks like. And of course, one of the other things I have learned over traveling is that always think long term. I think that's what a lot of great countries have done is to always think long term. So yeah, my travels abroad have been beneficial. I always get into the conversation where people say, "Oh, but people travel and they still remain the same." Well, the truth is, some people travel for different reasons. People travel for different reasons. But if you travel and you let the country you travel to go through you, and not you just going through the country, then you learn something along the way. You learn something along the way.
Okay. At a point, I think I've read some of your descriptions about London, and then you describe it as a leveler. Why did you say that? What was the reason?
I think it's a good thing. I think so. I think the easiest way to explain it to you is, in Ghana, there's always the big manism thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas in London, everybody is the same. I had the beautiful opportunity of living not too far from Chuka Umuna. I think he was then at the time the Labour shadow minister for, I can't remember which portfolio he held, but he was a minister. He was in parliament, Nigerian descent, raised and lived in London all his life. And we live close to each other. We get on the train the same way as everybody else does. Nobody offers him, "Oh, Mr. Honorable, you might take my seat." No, he stands like everybody else if the train is full. He reads the same free newspaper like everybody does. I see him in the pub, in the shopping, the grocery shop like everybody else. Very basic kind of life. And I also met Boris, who would ride his bicycle and all that in the streets of London. And it really shifted my mind around, how London is being built up in a way that it respects everybody, considers everybody to be at the same level, values everybody's opinion. And that's a beautiful way to build society if you want to be progressive, because the truth is you never know where the best idea from society would come from. And so you can have some people up here and some people down there. But the real story behind London, the leveler, was that I actually met a Ghanaian minister back in the day who came to London, and there wasn't a black, nice, long Mercedes to drive him around. He had to walk like everybody else. And I stood back and I said, "That's right. London will level you." And so amongst me and my friends, we started saying London the leveler. But yeah, those are beautiful experiences to have. Yeah, London does level you.
Was there a particular reason why you left back to Ghana, or you returned to Ghana?
There were a number of things that sort of all happen around the same time. So my reason for moving back to Ghana was not one particular item per se. In fact, the year before I moved, in fact, 2 years before I moved, I was still working with Crown Agents. They had wanted me to come down, to run a program here, which I decided not to because I wanted to go solo into consulting. And then a few other things happened right around the same time, which got me back to Ghana. But luckily, prior to that, I had been visiting much more often because of work. And so when all those things came together, I just figured, okay, you know what, this is probably the right time to make a run back to Ghana. So yeah, there wasn't one specific item that made me come back, even though I would say a few of them were more prominent than others. But a number of things did happen for me to want to come down to Ghana.
Okay. How many years in all did you spend around?
Wait?
In London, how many years?
London, Probably about 10 or so years, 10,
Wow.
11, thereabouts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
10 years.
It was about
A
a
decade.
decade of my time was spent in London. Yeah.
Wow. When you returned back to Ghana, how were you able to fit in?
So I think the trick is to stay connected. So even though I left, I still had networks here. I still had colleagues. I made it a point to regularly visit. I mean, at the time, both my parents were still alive. My old man is gone now, so it's left with my mom. But I made it a point to try and visit as much as I could. So I never really lost touch. Yeah, I may not be here on a day-to-day basis as I was back then, but I made it a point to always stay in touch with colleagues, networks, family, and also visit as often as I could. So it wasn't too, yes, of course, there were still some adjustments to make when you get back, but it wasn't as crazy as if you had been away 10 years straight without coming back. So
Coming back.
that was always helpful. And I think I say the same thing to people who are thinking about coming back, that, don't just uproot yourself from there and come, because you might think you're a Ghanaian and you're going to be fine, but you would have the culture shock of your life,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of readjustments you have to do. I often say to people, for the most part, we down here in Ghana, we've gotten to a point where we've normalized abnormality. And so if you're not careful, you come back and sometimes you question yourself for even doing the right thing, So, don't just uproot yourself and jump back into do it in piecemeal, come for a couple of months, spend some time, get a few shocks here and there, absorb it and go back, and then do it again. And then when you feel like, okay, you can take everything now, then of course, by all means, come back. But yeah.
But at what point did politics come in?
Politics came in. I think I have you see, the interesting story with this politics journey of mine was I was never really political. I was never really political. Yes, I wrote articles, shared my opinion purely as a professional, because at the time I worked in international development. So I had the opportunity to travel around quite a bit, see what others were doing. And so I felt I could contribute in that sense. So wrote articles, especially targeted towards the younger generation. But politics came in for two reasons. One, I felt a sense of duty. So when I came back, you meet with colleagues and everybody is upset with the way things were going at the time. The economy, the environment, infrastructure, pretty much governance, everything. And then I realized that everybody was just talking. It was just talking. And it got to a point so I'm happy to talk up to a point, but beyond a certain point, the talking has got to stop, right?
Yeah.
And something has got to be done.
Done.
And so I think for me, I got to that point where I just felt, really, we cannot just be talking. I don't care how daring the thought of going into politics were, but talking doesn't, really do much. Yes, it can put pressure on government if everybody talks. But the truth is, not everybody talks to start with. And so I felt a sense of duty. And then my father has always, said to me as a kid, if something is worth doing, do it even if it makes you look ridiculous in the eyes of everybody else. Do it even if in the eyes of everybody else you've lost. As long as you feel it's worth doing, it's a good cause, then do it. And so I figured, you know what, I can't keep talking. Personally, I just couldn't. And so I jumped into it, just believing that, we can make a point. And if Ghanaians felt this point we're making was a good vehicle they wanted to ride on, then we could all go all out and make something big happen. But yeah, I'm sure you know the rest of the story to that. But yeah, I went in because I felt a sense of duty and I was just tired of talking. We couldn't be talking forever. It doesn't help.
Yeah. So one of the things, I think one of the quotes at my workplace is that whatever the problem, be part of the solution. So you wanted to be part of the solution, rather than just being
Yes,
being a
yes,
talkative. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But you need the terrain. You saw the terrain. You saw how it was at that point. Even at this time, still, it was duopoly, NPP, and a typical traditional party system being practiced. But yet you chose to go
Yeah.
independent. Why didn't you have an affiliation with either of these parties?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that question asked so many times.
Yeah, yeah.
Why be a part of something you know is a problem? That's my question.
Okay.
Well, why should I be a part of something that we all know is a problem? I mean, I think Ghanaians fairly know now that the NDC and the NPP are the problem. I have some friends of mine who feel even though they are the problem, they can be shepherded like sheep from the
Yeah,
outside. But
yeah,
if that was possible, we would have done that a long time ago.
definitely. Yeah,
So and the other thing for me was the NPP and NDC I knew growing up were not the NDC and the NPP I knew when I came back.
okay.
You know, the old NPP and NDC were pretty, I mean, I'm not saying they were perfect, but they were at least they were very grounded in a lot of ways. They were grounded in putting nation first, at least to some good degree,
Yeah,
even if not entirely. So they were grounded in that philosophy of, you know, we love our country, and what I call corporate greed. In other words, they were greedy enough to see Ghana do better than other countries, and that's good greed, you know, not personal greed. But corporate greed in that sense was good in the sense that back then you had people who were grounded in some philosophies or some values about wanting to put nation first, and we're happy to pay the price for it. You know, unfortunately, that was not the kind of NPP I came to meet, and so yeah, it was a tough decision deciding whether to join one of the parties. And don't get me wrong, I have very good friends in both the NDC and the
yeah,
NPP.
yeah,
Very, very good friends. You know, we sit and talk, advise if I have to, but fundamentally, I struggle with joining. Some folks say, why don't you join it and change it from inside out? You know, the only way I can argue some of those points is time no day. I imagine going into the NDC and MPP and slowly and painstakingly changing it one person at a time, you know, all the way till we feel we are at that point now, we can now change. I don't think Ghana can really wait that long.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Only if they don't end
And
up changing
besides,
you.
none of those political parties are priority. Sorry, what was that?
I said only if they don't end up changing you yourself.
Well, that's another thing because we've known good people who have
Yeah,
gone into politics
yeah,
and ended up becoming one of them, one of the very people they talked about. But I think the trick around that is, and that's if you going as individuals one by one, you know, it's like osmosis. You know, something very concentrated would always move and capture the area, or diffusion, I would say, whichever it is, diffusion or osmosis or whatever. It's definitely one of those. Is that if you are single and you are not as concentrated as they are with the messes of politics, they will swallow you up.
definitely.
And I've seen people who, you know, bang, 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 talk about the nasties of our political system. And on the very first day they enter parliament, they take an envelope. You know, they do the very thing they've bashed about, you know. So yeah, I think the way around that is if you're gonna want to change the system, then we need a critical mass of people with a certain caliber of mind to be able to go in as one big unit and you know, sort of try and make some impact down there. But going in, you know, one person becomes MP, one person becomes MP. By the time the second person goes, the first one has become part of the system. By the time the third person goes, the first two would be the ones to welcome him. So there are ways around it, but we do need a critical mass of people who think a certain way, who have a certain level of discipline, and who have a certain level of ability to sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah.
To get in there and make it happen. Hopefully it will be you and your generation.
Sure, we hope so, because the point is that whilst the more we travel along these lines, the worse it becomes. And from where I sit, I see that even our generation will even be worse than the previous one, because now, yeah, there seem not to
Don't
be.
believe that. Have some hope.
There's
Have
hope,
some hope.
but hope alone is not enough. Hope alone is not enough.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I think that a lot of things, it appears individually, we all know the problems, but if you put us together, we are going to create another problem out of the problems, and it's really sad. So how do we go about it? Is it about mindset? Is it about leadership?
I am sure there is still, I mean, the Holy Book always talks about a remnant. There's always a remnant. There's always a few people with a certain level of capability who eventually must all align to make that big bang happen. I think they're there. I think most people sit back because they don't want to get tainted. Our politics is very easy to taint people. And once you're tainted, it's difficult to, extract yourself. So
Yeah.
most people who actually have the capability, the discipline, the ability to sacrifice and whatnot, they're there. I've met a few of them when we went on this journey. People are just not, after having worked so hard on themselves throughout their lives, they don't want to throw all that away for Ghana politics. But I do believe eventually it will all align. I do believe so.
How is it going to align? Because now, for instance,
Yeah.
yourself now, I would say you're also now sitting on the fence now because of what you've gone into see. And I'm sure there are many of you of your caliber who want to help, but because of how our politics is, they don't want to get into that space for them to be tainted, and then becomes difficult for them to redeem their image. Or so how are we going to do it? Because now we seem not
It's
to have
already
no solution.
happening.
Yeah.
You and I having this conversation is part of that happening, right?
Okay.
Because we're rubbing minds together. Somebody might be listening and probably get a spark from this conversation we're having.
Yeah.
And believe me, the universe has a way of pulling things together. Of course, with our effort, with our own help. Just as you sound passionate about Ghana, I sound passionate about Ghana. I'm sure there's a few others there who equally feel very passionately about our country.
Yeah.
And it takes just a little spark. And unfortunately, I am not the second Jesus, so I can't tell you where that spark will come from. But as long as these conversations keep happening, it will come together. Several of the regime changes, and I'm not saying we should go back to those ways of changing regime, but several, if you check world history, a lot of the big shifts that happen to countries or to regions or even globally always trace back to a little spark. There's always that one little spark that happens and things change very drastically. And so those things will happen at the right time when all the stars align. It will happen.
Okay.
I don't know when it'll happen, but it will.
Let's be hopeful and then see how it goes. And because we really want the country to do well, and if the country is doing well, the citizens are also doing well, directly or indirectly.
You don't think it's doing well now? Well, everybody says it's doing well now.
Well, maybe it just started. Maybe it just started, because I believe
fingers crossed.
Yeah. Because I believe still the masses are still suffering and all. I think that the basic necessities of life are being, not extended to people. And then just a few of the masses are just enjoying the goodies and all. So it takes away that sense of patriotism from people, because they see that the country is not doing enough for them. And so why would they also do enough for the country in that way? I think mostly is the reason why people do not even want to be serving freely again, because they see the country is not helping them in any way. I think maybe with time, like you are saying, some of these conversations will spark it, and then people will get to understand the situation, and then we want to come on board to really help the nation to move on.
Thank you for keeping your faith alive. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. So yes, you decided to run for an independent president. And how was it like? What were some of the challenges, and what lessons did you learn along the journey?
First of all, I met some amazing Ghanaians.
Okay.
I mean, I thought I was passionate, but I met people who were ridiculously passionate. So that is the background from which I say, look, these things would happen in their time.
Yeah.
I've met some, and I'm talking crazy, amazing people. I've met people who went all out for what we tried doing.
Yeah.
But I also met really brilliant individuals, and I'm talking people with brains that are rare. And so that for me was a blessing. I have still stayed connected with some of them. Some of them have become brothers more than friends.
Yeah.
And some of them have even become fathers more than friends. So I've met some incredulously amazing Ghanaians, which has been a great blessing to me. The lessons learned has been some of them very, not shocking, but sad. Some of them very educative, instructive for myself. I think we all know our political system is monetized and politicized mixed together. But you have to be on the ground to really see the extent to which things are monetized. I'll give you I visited a small community so we used to have community engagements. I visited a small community where the person leading them was a pastor, the community pastor. So he rallied everybody together to say I was coming, and I got there, and they all gathered together. And he said to me, you know those small Kia trucks, if you can just get me one, then in the morning I'll use it to preach. Go around, I'll preach with a speaker at the back. Then in the evening, I'll use it to do announcement for you, okay? So I said, okay, that's that's
A good campaign strategy.
That's a brilliant plan. But in the same meeting, I was told that, NDC, when they come here, they will give us money. MPP too, when they come, they will give us money. We like you. You look like guy that when you become president, fatal. But so if you can give us the money that those people give us, then we'll vote for you. It's funny, right?
Yeah.
But these are real life. This is real life. This is how on a very basic level, this is how far the monetization has happened. It's taking a grip really to that very basic level, community level. So politics is no more about what you can do for people. It's more transaction. It's more transaction. So that's one lesson I learned. People talk about you need money to do politics in Ghana, and yes, you do. But one thing I have also learned, we didn't go in with a lot of money, but one thing I've learned is if you surround yourself with the right people who have the right levels of discipline, and most especially who are mentally creative, a lot can happen with little. But in terms of advising anybody who wishes to go into politics, I would say have some money first, or at least have some people around you who have some money. Because if you're not careful, everybody connected to you will suffer for your sake.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. So money is essential, but you need the right people around you. That I can't emphasize that enough. You don't need people who just say, boss, yes, honorable. I don't need that. I'm not even that kind of person. Everybody I've worked with will tell you I don't believe in calling me sir or honorable or his ex. I'm not that kind of. Let's get the job done. Let's get in there, get stuff done. And so you need people who can think a certain way, who are disciplined up to a certain degree at least, and who care for the country as much as you do. As for people singing your praise and acting all loyal, you can get lots of them. You can get lots of them. but you need the right people around you. You need some money, and you need to be tough skinned.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to be tough skinned.
Okay. Then you must have been very rich to get to that level, and
No,
then like
no,
as an
no.
independent candidate.
We were very efficient.
Okay.
None of my team members were rich. We didn't have any big person sponsoring us. It was just a band of crazily passionate individuals who
Yeah.
decided they'd had enough. They didn't want to keep talking. They wanted to wear their boots up and do something tangible. And I think my heart, goes out to those individuals, parents, old folks, young people, people on the street, people in the villages, people in the city, all kinds of people came together to make it happen. And that's the beauty of it. Many people sit back and think we had money. We were just efficient. We were just brutally efficient. My people who have worked with me will ask you every single thing we were going to do. The one question we always started asking was, is that the most efficient way to get it done? And one of the things I've learned from that is that how you think when you're running a campaign says a lot about how you're likely going to run the state.
Definitely.
Because if you think let's just throw money at it, that's exactly how you're going to run the state, especially when you get there and you actually see there's quite some good money.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you're going to run it. There's no changing attitude that happens once you become, you get in the seat or you get into office. That's not how it happens. How you run your campaign, how efficiently, how lean you run it, it's exactly how you're likely to run your government. So yeah, those were the lessons learned, good people, efficiency, authentic people, people with integrity, and 100 grams of passion for your country.
Wow. Were there people from diaspora mainly, or it was a combined from those who were in Ghana and then diaspora coming together to say, okay, Kofi, let's go for this one. We can do this.
It was a combination.
Okay.
It was people from the diaspora throwing their resource and ideas, some coming down. Some actually came down throughout the duration of that period, left their families there, came down. And then it was folks down here in Ghana who decided, you know what, we've had enough of this. Surely there has to be a better way around this. So I know what I say when I say these things eventually would come together because the people are there. The people are there. The conversation just needs to keep going on, and then we can just wait for the spark. Maybe you are the spark. Maybe this
Definitely, I'll be part of the spark. Definitely, because we need to move the country on. Yeah, definitely.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
That's
definitely,
the spirit.
Definitely, we can't be here for all of our years. We need to come down and also help the country because
please do.
It's the only country we have.
So that's what I'm talking about. We need a lot more of you who have seen what is possible. Because if you don't know what is possible, it's easy to flag down the idea and say it won't happen. But if you've seen what other people have done with very little, it sort of kicks you. And then you come back and you see how much we've got, it kicks you.
Yeah.
It does kick you. So yeah, people in the diaspora need to come back home. And they need to stand up. Don't just come home. Stand up.
I think largely we've left the country for a few group of people, and then they are just enjoying. They are just enjoying the country.
Your time will come. Time is always a cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's gonna be a time where it will be more attractive to be back home and get things done. And I hope that time comes fast, so that you guys out there and your brothers down here can team up. Local knowledge, global exposure. There's a lot that can happen with that. Hopefully it doesn't degenerate into, we were here before you came, or where have you been? What do you know? No, it's about Ghana. It's about putting Ghana first.
Yeah.
It's about putting Ghana first.
We are taking the inspiration from you because you have tried this part before and you are still in there. But just that now you said you don't want to get into the limelight again. But I think once you are there, you can still guide people, you can still help people, you can still mentor people.
I always will.
Yeah. Help young ones to also build their capacity to handle certain parts of the country's development. Yes, but on the back of that, when you went through all these processes, you joined the coalition of independent candidates, but later you withdrew from that. What actually transpired?
So that's a tricky question. So here's the two things I believe in. And people who know me will tell you, if our minds clash and I find your mind to be most superior to mine, I would yield to you. I would say, you know what? You give us all a better chance, a better shot at this than I do. So you've got my full support. Now, for me, it's always one of two things. You are either very highly competent or you are exceptionally trustworthy. You can be trusted. You either have a very high level of integrity and honesty and trust, or you are stupendously very competent. If you have neither of those, you have no business leading. That's the difficulty I had. So I think, because you see, in some of those meetings that we attempted having as coalitions, some of the thought processes were, so who is going to lead? Why the hell should we care about who is going to lead when we haven't even decided whether we want to get together to start with? Yeah. So what? We want somebody to lead an ununited force? No. Your home, you've got to be united on the ground before you decide, okay, this is the most capable person that can lead the process. And so I have said this to people, even face to face, that, look, I've said to people, I think you're a fraud. Yes, I don't mince my words. I think people who know me know that. I don't mince words. I'm a very authentic person. I try to be at peace with myself for the most part. And so the collapse of that coalition was, for me, that everybody wanted to lead. That's one, without any respect for competency or trustworthiness. You've got to have one of them in an extra dose to lead. You've either got to be very competent, exceptionally competent, or very, very trustworthy, that people, an entire country can put their hope in you and go to bed. If you don't have that level of trust, you have no business wanting to lead at any level whatsoever. You caught me with that question because, but yeah, good question. But I mean, we all learn, isn't it? I just think if people want to lead, you have to be either hugely competent or exceptionally trustworthy.
Definitely.
You cannot lead not being either of those. You would crash the boat. Hopefully not Noah's boat, but you crash the boat.
Definitely. But would it not be fair, or would it be fair for somebody to also say that, okay, look at these people, those who said they want to lead the country, they cannot even put themselves together? Would it be fair for some people to also describe like the coalition as, you people, you said you want to lead Ghana, and you cannot even put just the smaller group together to even elect somebody to lead the group?
I mean, I agree with those sentiments. If people had them, they had every reason to have them. Probably one of the reasons I insisted things got done well, my team insisted things got done the right way. Well, we tried our possible best to make sure that the whole process was transparent. It had integrity, because the way I saw it was, look, besides people saying whether we couldn't put ourselves together, I felt people needed to believe that these are people who, in their own selection process, have demonstrated some integrity. If we can't demonstrate integrity even amongst ourselves, how on earth? Forget about even competence. If we can't demonstrate integrity, or people cannot demonstrate integrity, they want to be trusted with the lives of over 30 million citizens.
30 million people,
They want to be trusted with, the gold, the silver, the timber that belongs to those 30 million people. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And people might see it in different perspectives, but for me, if I can condone it at that level, I'll be forced to condone it at every other level. And that's not me. That cannot be me. It's not even in my DNA. No, it can't happen. It can't happen.
You withdrew from that coalition, and then you went on solo
I did.
to be on your own, and then you went ahead. But when you are filing your nominations and everything with the electoral commissioner, now they said they are disqualifying you, or they disqualified you on technical grounds. What were the reasons, and why did they do that? How did you take it?
Are you sure you don't have time for this?
You
You
summarize for
don't have
us.
time for a
You summarize for us.
question. Well, it's the word of the EC against one individual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, the power of institutional agency is going to play a role in that.
Play a role, yeah.
But we took it all the way. We went to court on this matter. And I think that was my last lesson on the journey, that, who has power owns the courts, really. Because a lot happened in court that, for me, captures everything. So I was in touch with the EC throughout the process, right? Throughout the entire process. We communicated emails, WhatsApp messages, and all that. But I was actually on the phone to my family when one of my team called me and said the EC has just announced that they have informed us that we were going to be disqualified. And so I immediately called a Zoom meeting of my team and asked if anybody had been contacted, because I wasn't contacted. But as they would have it, we got disqualified on the grounds that there were forgeries in the signatures of those who filled the form. Of course, I wasn't in every single constituency personally to ensure that those sign in, but I did see the files, the signatures when they actually came in. So I was a bit surprised that was the claim that was made. Now, the interesting thing is that the rule says when we submit our forms, I think they were submitted in 5 or 4 copies or so, or 6, one of those. I can't remember the exact number. But the rule was that one of those was supposed to be signed off and handed back to us so that we can say we have the same copy as the EC also has, right? How many years has it been now? We still don't have a copy of our own forms that was given to the EC.
Really?
That very form, which formed the basis of our disqualification when we went to court, was never presented. No report from the investigating body was ever presented. In fact, the day we went to court, EC's lawyers had not even filed a statement yet. So there were so many things that happened in court that I would rather not talk about, that just got me to realize, you know what, this was not my fight. It was a fight for the entirety of Ghana. It wasn't a one man's fight. But yeah, some good things must pause for some time. And I suppose that was, but we took it on our strides. We felt the need to still go to court, but even court was a different story. Let's be diplomatic about it. And so here we are, another day to live and fight.
Did you feel like, or did the team feel like there was a hand behind what was happening?
We've always known there was gonna be some disruption to our efforts. I think we just didn't think it was gonna come through the EC at that early stage, at least. But then again, it was understandable. We were most likely splitting the middle class, and so the middle class being the stronghold for the incumbent party at the time, it made sense. It made a lot of sense. So I mean, you see positive in everything. I saw it as, my team saw it as, okay, we must have been pressing buttons enough to, if you say we were a little fish in the ocean, we must be pressing enough buttons in that ocean for you to go all out, send all this machinery against us. Surely we are not a little fish, as you claim. Because if we were, you wouldn't bother.
Definitely.
You wouldn't bother.
You were that significant to the extent that probably if they are...
I hope we were. Not me, us.
Yes. If you are allowed to go through, then you would have caused a shift in that regard. So I think
I'm sure we would have.
Yeah.
I'm sure we would have. I remember an MP in the then government calling me and said, "Oh, brother, we thought you were just in Accra. we're just, even my own constituency, your posters are everywhere. And I'm sure that's when they started realizing that, actually, this guy was not just in Accra. And the truth is, we weren't just in Accra. But we had a way of being efficient in our own little way. And this is an encouragement to others who are looking to go along that path, is that you can make a dent in the bend. You can make a dent. You've just got to be determined. You've just got to be exceptionally efficient. You've just got to be very disciplined. Disciplined in a sense that be disciplined enough so that nothing in your own doing would be used to undo whatever you were doing. At least you can live with that, knowing that there was nothing that happened with your own hands that caused things to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Wow. That's
You promised me we won't talk about politics, but
no.
we are.
We cannot meet the political man without talking about politics, because we young guys are also coming up. We need to learn from you. Even the passion.
It's a good conversation.
Yeah, the passion and the zeal to get to that level, to the extent that you challenge the status quo, and then to get to that level is even something that needs to be studied on its own. How you got there and all. Yeah. Forgetting about what the EC did and all, but how you even be able to garner all these people for them to sign for you, visit all the 275 or 270 at that time constituencies, for them to sign for you before presenting to the EC, for the EC to do their own assessment and say, okay, this. It's something that needs to be studied. Like this young man.
I'll tell you a little trick though, and most people on the outside never knew this, is that we actually I still have that Excel sheet somewhere that my team did. We actually had all the people that were ready to sign, and we had more than the number in each area that was ready to sign. We had their phone numbers, their emails, way before even the forms came out to be signed. Way before the forms came out. So there was a lot of groundwork that was done. So yeah, it can be done.
Yeah.
It's not as scary as people make it look. It can be done. And I think people
recently in the just ended election in 2024, we saw Nana Kwame Bediako Cheddar, who single-handedly caused a whole lot of, did solid campaign, traveled across the constituencies and all. Yeah.
And I doff my hat to him.
Yeah.
But it also tells you people are beginning to be hungry for something different.
Definitely. Like you said, it will come with time and with that little spark.
It will.
So definitely, maybe it's on the way coming.
I didn't say that.
Maybe I'll be one of the conveners. Interesting. But yes, we wrapping up, getting nearer to the conversation. You may not be running again as you've put it, but probably maybe along the lines we can come to you and say, okay, lead us again. Who knows? But in all of this, what are some of the key things, or let's say, in your view, what would be the 5 things that you think the next set of governments should do to be able to transform the economy of Ghana for good?
Look, a lot has to do with education, for good reason. The rest of the world is declining in terms of population growth. We are not. We already have a good part of the world's youthful population, and it's continuing to grow, and it will continue to grow. This group of youth we have been born into technological eras, so naturally they are tech savvy. In that sense, it naturally does mean that we have an asset base that we can leverage for the future if we want. So quite a lot can be done. Education is made up of 3 areas, right? The teachers, the infrastructure, and then the curriculum. Our infrastructure, we should rethink educational infrastructure. In other words, our learning infrastructure should be designed in such a way that even when the teacher leaves the classroom, the infrastructure can still be delivering education. I'll leave that statement there because it's a lot to unpack. But if you're a smart guy, if you sit down and think about just that one statement, you would realize a lot could happen with education and technology. And I have often said there is actually an easy way to make sure you can use technology to sort of bring the same quality and level of education throughout Ghana. Because currently, as it is, the best institutions for education are all in the south of the country. But if you're going to make the country function at every level in every region, the same level of education has to happen across board. It has to. So that's one. Number two, this is all free consultancy.
Yeah.
Number two, if I were the next government or even the current government, I wouldn't bother sending or establishing a diplomatic mission in some countries. You know what I'll be doing? I'll be making sure we have an ambassador at Google, an ambassador at Facebook, an ambassador at the top 5 tech companies in the world. The reason, because they are the future. Look, the big tech companies are going to be the future governments of this world. You can mark it on any wall. They are going to be the future government of this entire world. Whether they come from Asia or the West, it doesn't matter. They are going to be the future government or create the next structure of government. It will make absolute developmental sense that we don't run away from that future, but we find a way of positioning ourselves to be a part of that future when it actually happens. So if I was a government, I would actually be having ambassadors in some of those places and ensuring that they become a part of the way we design and implement our educational systems. Because we have the youth population, they don't. But they have the technology of the future and we don't. That is where you find common grounds to position yourself as a country in the future that they are walking into. Because they will need us just as we will need them. And so we can't be sitting and just thinking, how do we reduce petrol price? How do we reduce food basket price? We can't stay at that level. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have to put people together at the table as leaders and ask the critical question, where is the world going? And I'm not talking just call some small boys who have been writing. No, that's not what I'm saying. There are professors, there are doers in the field, there are CEOs of those already existing countries. We need to call them to a table, even if it means paying them, and asking them that critical question, where is the world likely to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And ask, how can we plug ourselves in that future in a manner that nobody else is doing? That's the way you envision the future of a country. Now, this one we are doing today, they've reduced fuel price, so the whole nation is clapping. Tomorrow we'll reduce corn price and then we'll clap. And it's like we're just playing at this level. Why? That's just educational. So let's not talk about infrastructure. Next time we'll talk about
Yes. It's and
yeah,
it's
but there's much we can look. I believe in one thing. My final statement. I believe in one thing is that development doesn't have to mean doing a lot of things. It's about deciding what are the 5 things I can do that can transform this entire country, not just today, but for the next 20 years. And just focus on those 5 things, But yeah, I'm sure the big men are doing what we are talking about. I'm sure.
No, but I also think that because if you compare the West and what we are doing back home, think that largely it has to do with leadership, because obviously the difference between the citizens are not that much. But what creates the difference is the leadership, because somebody elsewhere is thinking for them. They are not the ones doing the thinking. Somebody elsewhere is putting the right things, making sure that the right things are done. But back home is the reverse.
Yeah.
And we tend to put people anywhere because their political affiliation, because they've campaigned for the government, because they've done this, and we tend to put anybody anywhere regardless of anything. And at the end of the day, we cannot even hold them accountable for anything. It's interesting.
As for accountability, we've left it for the gods. So, but it has to happen. Somebody needs to make sure everything has consequences in our country. Otherwise, nothing would work. Everything has to have consequences. Everything.
Definitely. Great. Yes. So your final statement to us, the youth of Ghana, Africa, and the world at large, who wants to do things or who wants to cause a change, but they feel stuck or discouraged at a certain point. Have you gone through all these phases of life and to the point where you are as a statesman, as a man who has contributed so much to the country and to the world at large? What would be your advice to us as young people coming up?
90% of the things you are afraid of, they won't even happen. So take a chance.
Take a chance.
Yeah, take a chance. People talk about passion. I don't believe in, following your passion. I believe try your hands at whatever life presents to you. Even if it looks too big for you to surmount, give it a shot. Give it a try. Try your hands at something. Whatever is you do that is entirely new to you, it trains your mind somehow that nothing else can. It pushes you. It forces you to think differently, get out of your easy skin. So whatever life throws at you that is new, give it a shot, and push yourself. Try new things. It's the trick to making impact is really discovering yourself. If you hide in one little corner, afraid to try anything, you will probably never discover yourself. And if you don't discover yourself, you cannot impact anything. You really cannot. And I'll be honest, you'll be surprised where you find your greatest capabilities. It's always hidden in the places you probably are too scared or too relaxed about, attempting. So whatever life throws at you, give it a shot. Yeah. There's nothing to be afraid of. And there's no virtue in being afraid because 90% of what you fear, it won't happen. It's all in your head. That's one of my father's favorite quotes. It's all in the head.
The last I was listening to a preacher man, then he says that there's no prison for failure. So go and do that thing and fail. Nobody.
You learn better from failing.
Yeah, nobody will catch you and put you in prison. So go and fail.
Yeah. You learn much more from failing than getting it all correct.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. We've been blessed with your presence, with your.
I have enjoyed myself being here.
Oh wow!
Totally enjoyed it.
Wow! The time is gone. I don't know. We would have continued for. It's a enlightening conversation, and you've taught us right from your childhood up to the time you grew to London and then back to Ghana, taking up that political challenge, and all of this, bringing all of those together. It's kind of make you a man who is purpose driven, who knows what he is about, and all. So thank you very much for coming on the King Obed podcast and sharing your insight, your wisdom with us, and all your advice to all of us. We know that definitely anyone who gets hold of this audio or video will learn a lot from it. And then,
I hope so.
Yeah, I saw you've written quite a number of books. Yeah. I think
those were in my leisure times.
Okay. They are on Amazon, right?
I'm a what?
Are they on Amazon?
I'm sure they are. Those are old books. I don't even keep track of them. But yeah.
Thank you so much for
the books are all here these days.
I can imagine. Thank you so much. Thank you
for having me.
For coming on board.
Thank you for having me.
And then for opening your doors to us. When we reached out to you, we said, okay, come on board and let's see what we can do. I was in fact very happy when you responded. The first day I saw your response to my message, I was like, wow, are they not picky?
Picky.
I picky.
We should also thank ECG for keeping our lights on throughout this session.
Definitely. They knew we were going to have an exciting conversation. That is why they kept it on. So thank you so much for coming on board and then sharing your knowledge and your stuff with us. We are most grateful. So until then, we will meet again. Bye-bye.